MMA Lockup. Asking the tough questions of the tough guys. And now the host of MMA Lockup, the fifth face of Mount Rushmore, Chris Matthews.
Welcome back to the show, folks. I'm Chris Matthews. Make sure you check out the website, MMALockup.com, or also Facebook and Twitter at MMA Lockup. On the line, we have somebody that we haven't had the privilege of speaking to. One of our cohorts, that being Joe Striker Hanlon, set us up with former UFC fighter Dan Barrera. Dan, it's a pleasure having you on the show. We haven't seen you out and about much. What's going on in your world, man?
Just been relocated here to Santa Barbara County, and I'm here in Santa Maria specifically. And I work with a great team out here, and I'm training fighters. And one of them is actually getting a belt here in 3 weeks in Santa Cruz. So yeah, things are going good. Things are going well.
For fans that aren't familiar with Dan Barrera, Dan, tell us a little bit about how you got into MMA and then your transition into the UFC and to where we're at now. Yeah.
Well, initially I grew up wrestling in Idaho, where I was born. Big family, 5 boys, no girls. So we were pretty much fighting all our lives. And I went from taking third and state out there, moved to boxing for the Air Force team as a light heavyweight, and I fought Andre Ward and basically was ripped off the decision in the finals for the semifinals for the Olympic spot. I went from there. I transferred to Fort Campbell, and from Fort Campbell I went to Fort Knox, and from Fort Knox I went and fought my first MMA fight out there in the Armory. And I sent a tape to the UFC, and I went and tried out in Vegas on a one-way flight on an Easter weekend, and ended up making it my first try. So, and I didn't know how hard it was until I talked to the other guys that basically had a shoe-in from, other coaches, and I wasn't really working with anybody notorious or infamous, I should say. I met Randy Couture out there, and Dana White, and the Ferreira brothers, and Craig Pilliger on the producers, and yeah, I just was I got caught their eye. So, and from there I went from the show, and then I was told that I needed to get some more experience apparently. So I went out there and fought a few fights, and that's how I came in contact with Joe Striker Hanlon, who's one of the best striking coaches in the world, if not the best. He's world class. So I'm lining some he's lining me up pro boxing bouts and MMA at 170, 175. So. And there's nobody out there that has a boxing belt and an MMA belt, and I believe and I know I can be the first to do that.
Tell us a little bit about how it was growing up in Idaho. You said fighting all the time. I don't talk to many people from Idaho. How does it differ from other parts of the world, man? Tell me.
There's not much to do out there in Idaho. I grew up in a little town, Rupert. It's probably around maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people in the region where I was at. So. Where you just tough farmers and wrestlers, that's where I got my wrestling base, and I was just across the river. Rival was Burley, and we would just get together on the weekends and basically duke it out. It's a small world because Casey Ice Cold Uscola was my classmate and confidant growing up. He actually wrestled 165s underneath me, so it's just a real small world because he made the Ultimate Fighter with. On Tito's team, and then he got attacked by some dogs after the show, unfortunately by some pit bulls. But he's up in Sacramento working with Team Alpha Male up there with your Eyes boys.
We're talking to Dan Barrera. Dan, tell us a little bit about what you've learned about yourself since going to the Ultimate Fighter and to where you're at now, because you've grown quite a bit as a man, from what I hear.
Oh, absolutely. The show taught me number one that I can take a lot more than what most people can. I was getting up early and running good 3-4 miles in the morning before our day even started with Hughes. He was really military style, which I'm a combat veteran, so I was used to being away from my family, used to being away from any type of correspondence with anybody, and the setting was good. I wish I would have had a little bit more experience. I kind of got thrown into the limelight and thrown to fight in front of millions, but it's all good. I was dealt the cards, the hands that I had, and I've learned a lot about not only the MMA business, but the UFC side of things. With my guy Paul, Paul Gianni, he was the architect out of Minnesota. They lined him up with stuff that you guys don't hear about. They lined him up on the beginning of the card at like 2 in the afternoon. He fought Jonathan Goulet. Jonathan Goulet had like 50 pro fights. It was. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You know, coming from a USA boxing standpoint, you don't line anybody up with 3 or less fights with somebody like that. I mean, it was just horrible. You know, and his family in his corner, they were the only ones there, and he got tapped out eventually. But I was like, I'll fight Jonathan Goulet in the backyard. I'll fight him in the parking lot. You know, that guy, he gets knocked out. Nothing against him, but I mean, I don't know how they would make that matchup legit. Then obviously it wasn't because they put it in the beginning of the card. I mean, it was the first fight of the whole card. Nobody was even there. But I learned a lot about myself as well spiritually. You know, I've grown, and you know, I've been married for 10 years, so that's the biggest fight. That's the biggest fight there is really fighting for a marriage nowadays, because it doesn't seem to be like young people are staying together, or anybody staying together nowadays. But yeah, and as a personal trainer now, and watching other people achieve their goals, it gives me great satisfaction to see people reach their goals and to help them break through that plateau of the mindset of thinking that they can't do things and things are too risky, and I have to hold on to my my bank account and these things that really don't matter in the end. I'm really blessed to just train every day and just train, even if I really don't have all these fights lined up there. I mean, some are coming to fruition, but it's not like it's. It used to be I had a love-hate relationship with the gym and mixed martial arts as a whole, because you come to the gym and then you really don't want to be there, and you have to be there, but now I get to be there. I'm there every day, and it's and I love it. So if I get a chance to fight in the near future, great. If not, I just keep on helping people reach their goals and being a world-class trainer like I have been.
Dan, I'm curious. You said you've been married 10 years. What do you think is important for specifically a fighter in a marriage? Tell me, what's the important elements that differs from, a day at the office that a fighter and the family has to go through that you think is really important to keep an eye on in reference to keeping a successful relationship?
Well, number one, I'm going to put it out there right now, Chris, and I see a pastor once a week, Pastor Hammond, and he's been married for over 50 years, and I talk to other men who are older mentors, and they've been married for a substantial amount of time, and some have more than one marriage. As a fighter, it feels like it's a really selfish lifestyle, and a lot of people don't understand the sacrifice and how much time and effort you really have to put in. I mean, it comes down to your diet, your sleep hygiene, everything encompassing throughout your life. It was like it's like being in the military, really. When you're called for a training camp, you pack up and go if it's out of town, or you bring in the people that you want to be with. But it's a lot of sacrifice. If you see like Chris Lytle, who's a firefighter as well, and he told me, he told everybody he's putting the gloves up for his family because he's got 4 kids and he wanted to be there for his family. I can totally understand that. I totally understand that, because as a fighter, and people don't think about it, that how much time you have to stay away for the training, the morning running, and being away to spar and hours and hours at the gym. It's my wife personally, she felt like I was choosing the gym over her. And I know a lot of fighters go through that. A lot of fighters, they have a conflicted relationship with the gym, and people need to know that it's a lot of sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears out there. But what I'm finding out as a veteran, talking with Todd Vance, who has POW MMA down in San Diego, who's a combat veteran as well, is that these vets that are coming home, these young vets, they need that camaraderie, and they need that brotherhood. And it's saving lives, because there's over 24 veteran suicides a day that are documented, Chris. That's horrible. That's unacceptable for me as a vet. So, and any vet I can get a hold of, I tell them they can come into the gym. I'll work with them. Don't worry about the pricing. And they can call me at any time, and it's just a talk, because I felt like, as a veteran myself, I really didn't get to talk about the things that had happened to me. I lost good brothers, you know. I mean, starting Timmy Davis. I think I caught the news of him getting killed in an IED blast in a Humvee, and in the news, you know, it shocked me. And this guy's a true warrior in the sense, you know. I throw punches and kicks, you know. This guy, he gave the ultimate sacrifice, and people are quick to forget. People are quick to forget things like that. So in any way that I can, you know, be of service and sacrifice, and that's the life of a fighter, you know. It's just, and I tell these young guys that are coming in, if you're here to make money, then you're here to, you know, be here for the fame and the money and to see how many women you can sleep with, then I just, you know, I can't work with you, because that's not what it's about. It's, you know, it's the way of the Bushido, that says the samurai that comes in and he's working to better himself spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And we form these bonds that are just like with Striker Joe Hanlon. I mean, I love this guy as a mentor, as, you know, as an uncle, and as in a corner man. I trust him with my life, and essentially that's what I'm doing. If he's working my corner and telling me what I need to hear, I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting my life in his hands, because, you know, it hasn't been advertised, but people have lost their lives due to MMA. It's just it's not heard of. And anytime I can get in and be a referee or be a, you know, a guest referee or anything, I love it, because these refs, some of these refs in these shows, I mean, they're letting these kids take damage that doesn't need to be. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they don't need to take damage like that, especially if it's an amateur show. I mean, out here in Camo, it's you know, these guys are risking everything, selling tickets, and, you know, they're not getting compensated even a hotel or you know, gas money, because they don't want, you know, they have to buy the gloves. I mean, that stuff is ridiculous. When I started, it wasn't. I was getting gloves, I was getting things paid for, like gas, hotel, food, and it's not like that anymore. It seems like you know, people are just out to make money for themselves, and it's not even about the fighters, which is, I mean, it's totally opposite. There needs to be some sort of union. There needs to be some sort of they just barely got medical benefits for the UFC recently. It wasn't like we had medical benefits. And then my brother Jared Rowlands, J-Rock, he married my sister, so now he's my brother, and they have a daughter, Alyssa, and they live in Southern California. And you know, I'm definitely blessed that I was being able to be a part of that, because Jared, you know, he became a police officer, and I believe he's on the sheriff's department, and, you know, just an outstanding individual, a great father. And it's because of you know, things that he's learned throughout his life. And, you know, he's got his black belt in jiu-jitsu, and, you know, he got a bad taste in his mouth after things happened to him. He got injured, and they didn't, you know, the UFC didn't step up to cover him medically as he was training to prepare for a fight. And, you know, you hear about that stuff, but you don't really hear about it. So I just want to let people know, you know, the truth on that aspect, that a lot of fighters get injured and, you know, they get cut. You know, I believe he had a 3-4 fight agreement, and then they just called him up one day and said, "We don't need you anymore, Jared." And that's called contract infringement. You know, I mean, if I did that with anybody else, with an attorney or somebody else, I signed the contract, and then I didn't uphold my end, you can best believe I was getting sued. If I was disclaiming my information about the show before it aired, Craig Pillijon said he was going to send his lawyers to Sharks to take us down, so we all better keep our mouths shut. So yeah, it's a really lucrative business. As you can tell, it's growing around the world. My friend that I knew down in Clarksville, outside of Fort Campbell, Ron Daly, he's going worldwide. He's got a gym out in Malaysia right now, Tiger Muay Thai, and you know, just a world class individual. And he's a fighter for the fighters, like Joe Striker Hanlon and Carl Willis. These guys, you know, they've had fights and they've had bouts, and I believe these guys should be in the corners, and these guys should be the promoters, and these guys should be the ones, like, you know, Ray Sifo as well. I mean, these guys should be the ones that are setting this whole business up, because they're really looking out for the interests of the fighters and their families, not just cutting them because they get, you know, something up, or they've had a few bad streaks. I mean, Tito didn't win for 6 years, and they didn't cut him because of the fanfare, and people loved him. I mean, I love him. He's an exciting guy to watch, but, you know, he had contract agreements and disagreements things of this nature, because him and Randy and guys like that, they weren't getting they weren't getting the fair share of the cut. I mean, hands are down. They can run around all day and say, well, these are the ticket numbers. I mean, no, they were fattening their pockets while I mean, these guys were getting just crumbs basically. I don't know if Randy can even attend his son's fights and be in his corner, his son Ryan, because of the agreement that he had with Bellator and him, getting the Everlast contract with the MMA gloves. And last I heard, Randy wasn't even allowed to be at a UFC event. That's just crazy. He's a Hall of Famer. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me sometimes, Chris.
Dan, we're speaking to Dan Barrera. Dan, what do you think is the solution to some of these things? Because really, the way it's sounding is it's not to the point of boxing just yet, but going this path, it very well could end up like boxing is now, a sport that doesn't reinvest in itself and eventually will die.
Yeah. No, like I said before, I think that they need to start treating fighters a little bit better. Another thing people don't really talk about is, the pay. I mean, they pay fighters, crumbs, and you basically have to lean on your sponsors and people that love and support you, that are there for you no matter what. If you're fighting in a back alley or fighting on TV and with the top of the world promotions, I mean, you really rely on your band of brothers and the people that you train with, your fight team and your sponsorships, because a lot of fighters I know that are amateur in the Santa Barbara area, I mean, they live with each other, and it's just like they all get their EBT cards, and they basically live at the gym and come home just to rest and recover, and it's just it's really they're getting nothing. They're risking everything, and they're not. I mean, they're really getting nothing. And I mean, some of the shows that I've seen out here are, they're better than some of the pro shows that I've been to. And I think in the back of my mind, these guys are risking. I mean, their life and limb, literally life and limb. So on the tryouts where I was at, I've seen people get injured, and it's just like, well, they just get flown home. Well, see you later, and maybe next time. But I mean, stuff needs to change. It really needs to change. I know they're getting bigger endorsement deals with Nike and Gatorade, Body Armor. These big corporate companies, and they really need to look to taking care of the fighters in all aspects, because we're the ones risking everything.
Talking to Dan Barrera. Dan, we have just a couple more minutes. I definitely want to get you on again, make this a common thing.
I would, no problem.
You mentioned fighters live off pretty much their sponsors and whatnot. So I guess what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a real opportunity for good individuals to become MMA brokers and essentially start loading up fighters with sponsors. And that's am I wrong by thinking that's something that is very much in demand and very untapped and to the fighters' benefit? No, I
totally agree with you, Chris, that they really need to look to they really look to taking care of the fighters in a full encompassing just making sure that they're getting and taken care of, not just financially, but the guys that I work with now. The CC Elite is this conditioning gym that I'm a part of and running MMA out of. They make sure that the fighters are getting MRIs. They're getting their physicals checked. They're checking their BMI. They're making sure that they're not just throwing guys in there and everybody's tight knit. They're really looking out for each other. They're looking out for the best interests of the athlete. And the slogan for our gym is education, nutrition, and then athletics, in that order. Education, nutrition. We never stop learning, Chris. I'm going back to school as well for, psychology and, legal. I learned, I used to tell people, I learned my lesson from School of Hard Knocks. But really, we never really stop growing or maturing. It's an everyday thing. I think Mahatma Gandhi said that we die every single night, and in the morning we are reborn. So every night I take an inventory of my life and my day. Was I helpful and harmless? Was I able to be an example for somebody? Was I able to help the youth? And in this area specifically, they just have a big gap youth and for the mentors. I mean, young men. It's just, I mean, they're getting into the drugs and gangs. It really breaks my heart, you know. And if if I can be any assistance, I step up in that matter. And the other guys I work with, all stand-up individuals, and we say there's only two types of people that are sharpening you up or people that are dumbing you down. And I consider myself a sharp individual, and I want to stay sharp, and I want to continue to keep on growing physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally every day. So it's been quite a turnover. It's been quite a turnover.
Dan, how can fans reach out to you on the World Wide Web?
Oh, well, they can find me on Facebook, obviously. They can also find me on Twitter. I'm really not really quick with the social media as much as I should be because, like I said, we have to broadcast ourselves and basically, get everything out there. I mean, it's just like we're doing our own promoting, so I don't even know how promoters are getting paid really because the fighters are doing all self promotions and really it's just a nation of Twitter addicts and Facebook addicts. So I go on once in a while, but it's not the full encompass of my life. I'm just worried about myself and my family and the people that I train and making sure that the fighters are taken care of and I'm not afraid to tell when he comes in, you're not ready to fight. So we're gonna work on things, and even guys that are going for the belt, Josh, my fighter, Josh Passmore, he just had a 9-second knockout fight to a guy that choked him out before. So that kind of growth makes me makes my heart happy, and that's the way I want to deal with fighters. If I choose to train with them, I want them to be big, heart, soul, and spirit, and to really continue to progress themselves and not just be satisfied with yesterday. Yesterday's done and over with. That's the only easy day. It was yesterday. We keep on growing and maturing, and the fight's every day. So that's the motto I live by. And I just ran into Bill Kaufman today, and old Joe got to talk to him, and I'm excited. He's looking to fight. He's 51, turning 52. He's on the sheriff's department here, Santa Barbara, and I'm really looking forward to working with that guy. And going up and sparring with the guys up at the pit and stuff up north. That's great. Everybody's really supportive here in this area, and that's why I'm here and putting my roots down here.
That was Dan Barrera. Make sure you check him out, but also check us out at MMA Lockup on Facebook and Twitter at MMA Lockup. More to come when we get back.